Hello, I'm Norman Crookshank with Sharp Electronics. I'm the Senior Production Print Manager for the Polaris Office and Pro products. Today we're going to take a look at the 7090, but we're also going to compare that with the 6580, which is our office machine, to see the differences between the two. So let's go take a look. The 7090 comes with a fully integrated 15-inch touchscreen. It's much larger than the LCD model that is basically embedded on the front of the 6580. This has a few features that are different from the 6580, mostly the Fiery integration, which by touching the Fiery button, it allows us to look at a Windows 10 desktop with Command Workstation running. You'll notice we have the mouse here and the fully integrated keyboard. Without the Fiery, the mouse is not attached. The keyboard, however, still comes with the 6580. And this experience, which is our interface on all of our MFPs, is standard. So the ability to do email, tray settings, copying, all of these are standard, and custom buttons can be built. Without the Fiery, both the 6580 and the 7090 use a similar driver with the features that are very similar depending on the finishers that we have attached. So let's take a look at a few of the other features. As we open the side of the machine, there's a couple of major differences between the 7090 and the 6580. First of all, there's a yellow jig that is attached to the fuser unit. That jig allows us to add a feature, which is a fuser refresh unit. That unit lets us buff out white lines that occur when we go from a small size to a large size piece of paper. This feature is only available in the 7090 series. Another thing that's available, which you can't see here, is the fact that the 7090 has an adjustment where it reads the paper as it comes through the machine, and it basically aligns the paper from the edge. So as it runs through the first time, it finds where the edge of the paper is, it aligns the image to that paper, and then as it comes back through, it aligns the paper again and adjusts for the shrinkage that occurs sometimes when paper goes through the heated fuser. That feature is not available on the 6580, and what that allows basically is the 7090 has better front to back registration, and I'll show you an example of that in just a minute. So let's take a look at another feature that the 7090 has and the 6580 difference from. When we talk about the toner in the 7090, the toners on the color toners are different in this machine than they are in the 6580. These toners yield 60,000 pages per cartridge. On the 6580, they only yield 40,000. So this is a bigger capacity, and it's also a different type of toner. This toner is a finer, smaller particle, so it actually allows us to make more intricate pictures, make smaller dots, which actually makes more detail. The black toner is the same on both machines. This is 65,000 yield as far as copies are concerned, or prints. So different toner, same size basically as far as the cartridges are concerned, but these are higher density or higher yields. When we talk about the machine and the way the machine is actually made, the 7090 has a much more solid construction. For instance, these trays are actually on rails and they pull in and out very easily. They also have this mechanism that pinch and lock, and it's a little bit more precise as far as how it's able to guide paper through the machine. Everything in this machine is essentially the same. However, there's quite a few parts in the 7090 that make it heavier duty. So with that in mind, the 7090 has a volume capacity of up to 150,000 per month. The 6580 is a third of that. So it can do 50,000 per month. And so that's where we like to talk about whether the volume that you're using currently is greater than 50,000, and that is based on bond paper. So for instance, this is just a regular Staples 20-pound bond paper that you can buy anywhere in an office supply store. The top two trays are the same. These are both letter size only, so this tray is identical to the 6580. 800 and 1200 sheets respectively in this tray. This is just for office applications. And then both the trays on the bottom are the same, however they have the mechanisms inside them are different. This will accommodate up to 12 by 18 paper, and both of these trays, these two, will handle up to 220 GSM or an 80-pound cover. So those two trays are the same. We can also run tabs and labels out of this tray 4 on both machines. The 7090 has the capability of adding this large capacity tray. These trays hold up to 2,500 sheets each, the top and the bottom, both 2,500 sheets of paper. Now, if you don't need this much paper, this entire unit from here over basically is removed, and you're left with a bypass tray, which essentially goes right there. So if this paper capacity here is not required, we just take this piece off and the machine actually ends up being about 7 foot long. So let's talk about the differences between the paper capacity that this machine has and the paper capacity that the 6580 has. This machine can duplex up to 300 GSM, that's a 110-pound cover, and that could be any kind of paper. That could be gloss, that can be plain paper, it can be matte finish paper. Anything that runs through the machine pretty much can be duplexed through these two trays. The 6580, however, only allows us to duplex up to 256, which is just a little heavier than 80-pound cover if we're using a gloss paper. So as long as you're not really using anything over 256 GSM in a gloss or a coated stock, the 6580 will be fine. And just to note, the paper that runs through these trays can also run through the bypass tray that's connected to the machine. One more thing I want to add about these two trays as I open this. These trays are very solid construction, so if you're running large quantities of card stocks, you're wanting to do maybe business cards or postcards or anything that is on a heavy stock, these trays are very solid, they're locked in place, they do not move, and we get a better registration, meaning the front and the back of the paper on these. There's also another feature that both of these trays possess, and that is the fact that they use a vacuum mechanism. So inside here, there's a vacuum feed, which is essentially 4 rollers that are tractor feed, and they are perforated, and air pulls the paper up this way and then feeds the paper through using. So let's take a look at the book that just came out of the finisher of creating a full bleed booklet. So the way we do that is we print to the edge of this 11 by 17 piece of paper. We print literally off the edge, up the top and the bottom. We fold that and then we trim this edge. So essentially inside here we have a trimmer, and it takes off about 5 millimeters off the edge of that booklet, and it gives us a finished product that is all the way to the 4 corners of the page, like this. The 7090 is the only product of its kind that does this. The 6580 does not have this capability. So another one of the big differences between the 7090 and the 6500 is the paper catalog. On the 7090, we have a paper catalog that allows us to create custom papers. For instance, here, you'll notice I created a paper called Hammermill 28. I also created one called Utopia 80-pound uncoated. And I also created one called Futura 100-pound text weight. What that allows me to do as I open up the catalog is it allows me to go in and customize that particular paper. For instance, I can change the amount of heat that I put onto the paper. By changing this number here, the fusing temperature goes up or down depending on the kind of finish that I want. So as you might have seen in the previous demonstration where we printed out the full bleed, the paper looks to be shiny, almost glossy. The way we get that glossy look is by changing the temperature. The higher the temperature, the glossier the paper looks, because the toner basically is made of wax, and that wax creates a shine. The ability to change the weight of the paper, and also down here on the very bottom, I'm able to actually dial in my front and my back. This doesn't mean a whole lot just looking at it, but basically what I've done in essence is I have printed out a test sheet, which I will print out here in just a second and show you that we're able to dial in the front and the back so that we have that nice tight registration that we talked about, and that happens through the paper catalog. So basically the 7090 has the ability to do this from the front panel. The 6580 does not. It is rather set. It's really like its name, it's for an office environment, and that's really what it's made for mostly, rather than a true graphics environment. As we talked about earlier, the 7090, which we looked at today, enables us to do this full bleed finished book. The 6580, however, allows us to do a booklet like this, which actually has a margin. So those are differences. Many of the parts are the same, as well as the finishing options. Many of those are also the same. The machine is built on a very similar platform. They are basically brother and sister. The biggest difference is the volume difference between what the Pro is able to do, the fiery options that we're given, as well as some of the finishing options which are different. The 6580 is perfect for a church that's wanting to do small runs inside, bulletins, those kind of things that are under the 30,000 volume a month number. Anything over 30,000 a month, if you're using special stocks, cardstock, 12 by 18 paper, or even up to a large 13 by 19, the 7090 is what we recommend in a very intense graphic environment that would require color critical jobs such as this one, which are basically marketing in nature. So with those things in mind, we want to help you to put the best fit in your environment possible. We don't want to oversell, but we also don't want to undersell. The 6580 is perfect for a lot of environments, but some people are looking for specific applications in which the 7090 would be suitable. So I hope this helped you to make your decision on which Sharp product is best for your environment. Thanks a lot.